Hi, while she's recovering from her yearly visit to the vet, I have been working on a new game called Spinbot. It's a roguelike top-down shooter that is a parody on competitive multiplayer shooters with the aesthetic of old-school shooters like Counter-Strike. In the game, you're playing as a cheater. You need to unlock cheats to beat your frustrated enemies and win lots of loot boxes in the process. There's already a Steam page, you can find the link in the description below. Wishlists are very much appreciated. The next big milestone for the game will be a demo for Steam Next Fest in October. Now, how did I end up working on this project? Well, I'm not working on it alone. The idea for Spinbot comes from Abulik.
Wat is het nummer van de 100 nu weer?
You can find a link to his Twitch channel and his devlog video on YouTube in the description below. Abulik got into game dev last year, and after some small projects, this year he decided to start working on a project that he wanted to take all the way from conception to publishing. Being someone who's played competitive shooters for years,
Ik ben een beest! Zo los ik dan. No! Fuck you, motherfucker! Je lust er fucking staan!
he came up with the idea for Spinbot. While working on it, he's focusing on sharpening his modeling skills. And given that programming isn't his strong suit, he vibecoded most of the early functionalities. But the more the project grows, the harder it becomes for someone without a programming background to manage AI code. And so he asked me if I wanted to help out. For me, it seemed like a great opportunity. I've always been more interested in the technical side of game dev and less in the creative and artistic part. So working with someone who has a great game idea and does the modeling and level design seems like a good match. So I said yes, we set up a Git repo, and I got my first peek into what a mainly AI-coded project looks like. The main functionalities worked fine, but the logic behind it was often quite messy and very bug-prone. It's like the AI knows about some good practices, like separation of concern and adding checks to prevent errors, but then often misapplies them in practice, or even completely forgets to apply them when it actually matters. A telling example of this was the save game dictionary. It can be a good solution to put all state that needs to be saved and loaded in a dictionary and write the dictionary to a file. But directly accessing that dictionary from anywhere in the code with hard-coded keys leads to everything breaking the moment you change something in the structure of the save data. It was even modifying and saving player stats from UI scripts. Another example of a misapplied concept is the many checks I found if a certain method exists on an object, instead of properly typing the scripts in the first place. Here, for example, it checks if the player variable has a function name takeDamage before calling it, instead of just properly typing the variable. Not only do these method names, hard-coded as strings, make it a lot harder to refactor anything, it also has the result that if something is wrong, it just quietly skips the code instead of alerting us with an error, which means we'll indirectly experience weird bugs later on and then have to figure out ourselves what caused it. Something else the AI seems to struggle with is properly recognizing synergies between functionalities. What I mean with that is, for example, aiming, movement, and fired bullet, target and direction can all share the same calculations, or part of the same calculations of angles and vectors based on mouse position or controller inputs, because all of these things are kind of linked together. However, each of these were implemented separately, repeating very similar but not identical logic, making it very hard to maintain and keep consistent and bug-free. Now, luckily for me, refactoring is one of my guilty pleasures. It's very satisfying to replace a messy, confusing code flow with something more structured that better aligns with your own coding style and your own way of thinking. So, I actually quite enjoyed replacing some of that logic with real, artisanal, organic, handcrafted code. Not free range though, I haven't touched grass in weeks. There's still some AI code that I kept as long as it doesn't need any changes and doesn't cause any major issues. I just focus on other things first. Also, despite these issues, I must say that the game was quite functional. It seems like AI can really help a non-technical person to have a quick prototype of a new functionality, which gives me, the programmer, a good tangible demo of what is really required. Another interesting thing about working on this project with a non-programmer is that I need to step away from my habit of defining as much as I can in code. Instead, I try setting up more editor variables and custom resources to allow Abolik to configure things directly in the editor. For example, for the upgrades in the level up screen. There's still some code needed to actually apply that effect, but all the basics can be configured using the custom resource without needing code. I'm currently working on something similar for adding skins and lootbox rewards. I'm also working on performance improvements. A game like this thrives on chaos, and so it should be able to handle a lot of enemies and projectiles. Roguelikes are also a perfect genre to play on the Steam Deck, so the game should be able to run smoothly on limited hardware. The main performance improvements I did have to do with enemy pathfinding and finding alternatives to standard collision detection to keep enemies from walking into each other. And there's still a few other ideas that I need to work on to improve performance further. Speaking of Steam Deck, we added controller support, and linked to that are questions about the camera perspective and camera movement. I implemented multiple variations that allow us to experiment with different angles and ways to control the camera. There's the fixed top-down camera, there's a third-person camera mode where you control both the camera and your aiming with the mouse or right stick, and then there's the free camera mode where your aiming is linked to your movement with the left stick and the mouse or right stick only moves the camera. We still need to decide on what will eventually work best. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I'll end it here for now. There might be more devlogs in the future, or not, given that I only seem to make about one YouTube video every 2 years or so. But let me know in the comments if there's anything specific about the game you would like me to talk about. And if you did not like the video, don't forget to press the thumbs down and flame me in the comments below. See you next time.